There is a quiet truth that many people spend their entire lives trying to understand. They search for prosperity in distant places, in endless effort, in the approval of others, and in the weight of possessions they believe will finally make them feel complete. Yet true prosperity does not begin in the hands. It begins at the entrance. It begins at the unseen doorway between your inner world and the life that stands before you each day. Every home has an entrance. Every heart has one too. And what stands at that entrance often determines what is allowed to enter. When the doorway of the home is crowded with neglect, confusion, and forgotten energy, life itself begins to feel heavy. Opportunities may come close but never stay. Peace may knock softly but never remain. Joy may appear for a moment only to disappear again into the noise. This happens because the entrance is not only a physical space, it is a reflection of the soul that lives behind it. Many people do not realize that prosperity is not always blocked by lack of effort. Sometimes it is blocked by resistance. Sometimes it is blocked by emotional dust that has quietly gathered for years. Old disappointment, silent resentment, fear of change, and attachment to pain can stand at the threshold of the heart like invisible stones. And when the entrance is crowded, even blessings struggle to find a way inside. The middle way teaches neither rejection of the world nor blind attachment to it. It teaches balance. It teaches that abundance is not found in chasing more, but in creating space for what truly belongs. Prosperity arrives naturally where harmony already exists. It moves gently into places that welcome it. It settles in spaces that feel open, calm, and alive. Look at the entrance of your home. Is it inviting or does it feel burdened? Is it become a place of forgotten things? Sometimes a single neglected corner can quietly hold the energy of exhaustion. Sometimes an entrance filled with clutter can mirror a mind that no longer knows how to rest. The outer world often reveals what the inner world has been trying to say. When you clear the entrance of your home, you are doing more than moving objects. You are sending a message. You are saying that your life is ready to receive. You are saying that peace has permission to enter. You are saying that what no longer serves you can gently leave. Even the smallest act of care can begin to shift the energy of a space. Sweeping the doorway, opening a window, allowing fresh air to move through the entrance. Placing something beautiful near the threshold, these simple acts can awaken a forgotten sense of flow. But the deeper work is within. The entrance to the heart must also be cleared, that they unknowingly lock out the very things they desire. Love cannot enter where fear stands guard. Love cannot enter where fear stands guard. Peace cannot remain where old wounds are continually fed. Prosperity cannot grow where scarcity has become an identity. The heart must become a place of welcome. To clear the entrance of the heart means releasing what has been held too long. It means forgiving what no longer deserves a home inside you. It means loosening the grip on pain that has become familiar. It means making peace with the past so the future can finally arrive. This does not happen all at once. It happens breath by breath, choice by choice, moment by moment. When the heart becomes lighter, life begins to respond differently. You may notice that opportunities appear where there was once only delay. You may notice that conversations become softer. You may notice that decisions become clearer. This is because prosperity is not only money. Prosperity is clarity. Prosperity is peace. Prosperity is the ability to feel whole even while life continues to change. The world often teaches extremes. It teaches endless striving or complete withdrawal. It teaches grasping or avoidance. But the middle way teaches something quieter. It teaches that prosperity grows in balance. It grows when gratitude and effort walk together. It grows when wisdom guides desire. It grows when the home is cared for and the heart is not forgotten. The doorway of your home and the doorway of your spirit are deeply connected. One reflects the other. When both are open, life can move as it was meant to move. Energy enters. Burdens leave. Light finds its place. And what once felt distant begins to feel near. Prosperity does not always come with noise. Sometimes it enters silently, like morning light crossing a clean threshold. Sometimes it arrives as calm after years of inner storms. Sometimes it appears as a deep sense of enoughness that no amount of wealth alone could ever provide. So if life has felt heavy, do not immediately ask what more you need to chase. First ask what needs to be cleared. Stand at the entrance of your home. Stand at the entrance of your heart. Look carefully at what has been waiting there, and with gentle awareness begin to make space. Because sometimes the path to prosperity is not about reaching farther. Sometimes it is simply about opening the door. Prosperity begins at the entrance. The energy at the entrance of your home and heart influences what can enter your life, including peace, abundance, and opportunity. Many people spend years searching for prosperity as though it lives somewhere far away, hidden behind a future moment that has not yet arrived. They believe abundance is something they must chase, earn, or struggle to deserve. They look outward, hoping the next opportunity, the next possession, or the next achievement will finally bring a sense of fullness. Yet there is a quieter understanding that often goes unnoticed. Prosperity does not always begin with what you pursue. Sometimes it begins with what you allow. It begins at the entrance. The entrance of a home is more than wood, stone, or a simple doorway. It is the place where energy first arrives. It is the meeting point between your private world and the world beyond your walls. Every person who enters your home passes through that space. Every feeling you carry inside also crosses that same invisible threshold. In many ways, the entrance becomes a reflection of your relationship with life itself. When the entrance feels heavy, crowded, or forgotten, it can slowly influence the atmosphere of everything behind it. A neglected doorway can quietly hold the energy of delay. Shoes scattered without thought, broken objects left too long, dust collecting in corners, darkness replacing light. These may appear small, but they often speak a deeper language. They can mirror the silent burdens a person has been carrying within. Sometimes without realizing it, people create barriers at the very place where life is trying to enter. Prosperity often requires openness before it requires effort. Life moves naturally towards spaces that feel welcoming. Just as a guest feels comfort in a clean and peaceful entrance, the same can be said for the unseen energy that surrounds daily life. Opportunity, harmony, and renewal are more likely to settle where there is room for them to arrive. But when the entrance is filled with neglect, it can feel as though life itself hesitates at the door. This is why the condition of the entrance matters. It is not about perfection. It is about awareness. When you care for the doorway of your home, you begin sending a quiet message to yourself and to the world. You are saying that your life matters. You are saying that what enters your space should enter with peace. You are saying that what no longer belongs can gently leave. Even small actions can create a meaningful shift. Sweeping the front step can feel like removing old stagnant energy. Opening the door to fresh air can feel like inviting clarity into your life. Allowing natural light to touch the entrance can soften the heaviness that may have settled there. Placing a plant, a candle, or something beautiful near the doorway can become a symbol of welcome. These simple acts may seem ordinary, yet they often create a deeper sense of harmony than people expect. Prosperity does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it begins with subtle changes that are easy to miss. A home may feel lighter. Thoughts may become calmer. Unexpected opportunities may begin appearing. Relationships may feel softer. None of these changes happen because the doorway itself holds magic. They happen because attention changes energy, care changes atmosphere, and intention changes the way life responds. When the entrance is clear, life can move more freely. And often the first sign of prosperity is not more money, but a greater sense of peace. Sometimes the true doorway to abundance has been waiting quietly in front of you all along. Outer space reflects inner state. A cluttered doorway often mirrors emotional heaviness, unresolved pain, and blocked inner energy. The entrance of a home is often seen as something ordinary, just a point of entry and exit, a place where people come and go without much thought. Yet, when observed with deeper awareness, it becomes clear that this simple space carries a subtle influence over the entire atmosphere of life within. It is the threshold where the outside world meets the inner world, where movement becomes transition and where energy quietly shifts from one state into another. When this space is neglected, it does not only affect the appearance of the home, it can slowly affect the feeling of life itself. Many individuals are unaware of how strongly their environment reflects their inner condition. When the mind is filled with unresolved thoughts, emotional heaviness, or constant distraction, it often manifests in the physical space around them. The entrance of the home becomes a silent witness to this state. Things begin to accumulate without attention, order slowly gives way to disorder, and what was once welcoming starts to feel overlooked. This is not about judgment of cleanliness, but about awareness of energy. The entrance becomes a mirror of how openly or tightly life is being held. There is a natural principle in life that harmony attracts harmony. When a space feels open, clear, and cared for, it naturally becomes more inviting. People feel lighter when they enter. Conversations feel easier. Even silence feels peaceful rather than heavy. In contrast, when the entrance feels cluttered or forgotten, it can create a subtle resistance. Not everything is about visible mess. Sometimes even emotional residue, unacknowledged memories, or long-held tension can create a similar effect in the atmosphere of a place. The entrance of the home is also symbolic of the entrance to the heart. Just as a physical doorway allows or restricts movement, the inner doorway of a person determines what emotional and mental energies are allowed to stay. When a person holds on to resentment, fear, or old pain, it is as if the entrance of the heart is partially blocked. Life continues to arrive, but it does not always settle fully. Joy may come but feel temporary. Opportunities may appear but feel unstable. Peace may be experienced but not sustained. Clearing the entrance both outward and inward is not a dramatic act. It is a gentle process of becoming aware of what is no longer needed. In the physical sense, it may begin with simple actions like removing unnecessary items, opening space for light and air, or creating a sense of order where there was confusion. These actions, though small, often carry a psychological and energetic effect that is greater than expected. They signal a willingness to let life move again. On the inner level, clearing the entrance of the heart involves a similar simplicity. It is the willingness to release what has become heavy. Not everything must be carried forever. Some thoughts lose their purpose over time. Some emotions remain only because they were never acknowledged fully. When these are gently observed and allowed to pass, the inner space begins to feel lighter, and in that lightness, something subtle begins to shift. Life responds to openness. It does not force itself into closed or crowded spaces. Instead, it flows toward clarity. When both the home and the heart begin to reflect a sense of openness, even in small ways, a noticeable change can occur. There may be a sense of ease in daily living, a reduction in internal tension, or a quiet clarity in decision-making that was not present before. This process does not require perfection or constant effort. It requires attention. The entrance, whether physical or emotional, only needs awareness to begin transforming. And once that transformation begins, it often continues naturally without force, as if life itself recognizes that space has been made for it to enter more freely. The middle way creates balance. True prosperity comes through balance, not extreme chasing or complete detachment from life. When people think about prosperity, they often imagine it as something distant, something that arrives after long struggle or exceptional achievement. They measure it in terms of wealth, success, or visible abundance without realizing that its roots are far more subtle. Prosperity is not only what comes to a person, it is also what a person is able to receive, and receiving is deeply connected to the state of openness within and around them. The entrance of a home in this sense becomes more than a physical threshold. A home is not just a structure of walls and rooms, it is an extension of the life lived inside it. The entrance is the first expression of that life. When someone approaches a home, the doorway tells a silent story before a single word is spoken. It reveals whether there is calm or chaos, whether there is care or neglect, whether there is space or congestion. This subtle communication is often overlooked, yet it shapes the feeling of anyone who enters. In the same way, life responds to the inner doorway of a person, which is shaped by thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Over time, many people unknowingly allow clutter to accumulate at their entrances. This clutter is not always physical. It can be emotional residue carried from past experiences, unresolved conversations, or repeated patterns of thinking that no longer serve any purpose. Just as objects left unattended begin to collect dust, unprocessed emotions begin to weigh down the energy of a space. The entrance slowly becomes less of an open passage and more of a storage point for what has not been released. When this happens, life can begin to feel restricted. Opportunities may appear less frequently, or when they do appear, they may feel difficult to fully embrace. There may be a sense of constant effort without corresponding ease. This does not mean that life has stopped offering possibilities. Rather, it suggests that the space for receiving has become limited. The flow has not ended, but it has become obstructed by what remains unacknowledged. Clearing the entrance is therefore not only about organization, it is about restoration. It is about returning a sense of movement to what has become still. In the physical sense, this may involve simple acts such as removing items that no longer belong, creating pathways where there was blockage, or allowing natural elements like light and air to move freely. These actions are not merely aesthetic, they influence how energy circulates within a space. On a deeper level, clearing the inner entrance requires a similar kind of honesty. It asks for awareness of what has been held too tightly for too long. Sometimes people carry beliefs about themselves that were formed in moments of difficulty, and those beliefs quietly shape how they experience life long after the original moment has passed. Letting go of these patterns does not erase the past, but it allows the present to breathe more fully. As the entrances of both home and heart become clearer, something subtle begins to change. The sense of resistance begins to lessen. There is more ease in small moments, more clarity in thought, and more openness in perception. Life does not suddenly become perfect, but it becomes more fluid. The heaviness that once felt constant begins to lift, replaced by a quieter stability. Prosperity in this sense is not only accumulation. It is alignment. It is the natural result of spaces that are no longer obstructed. When there is room for life to enter, it does so without force. It does not need to be chased or controlled. It simply arrives where it is welcomed. The entrance, both seen and unseen, holds this quiet power. It does not demand attention, yet it shapes everything that follows. And when it is tended to with awareness, even in the simplest way, it becomes a point of renewal rather than restriction, allowing life to move with greater ease and gentleness than before. Clearing creates space of blessings, removing physical and emotional clutter, allows new positive energy to flow naturally into life. Prosperity is often misunderstood as something that arrives only after intense effort, constant striving, or external achievement. Many people spend years chasing it, believing it exists in a future moment that will finally feel complete. Yet, in a quieter understanding of life, prosperity is not only about what is gained. It is about what is allowed to flow. It is about the condition of the space through which life enters. The entrance of a home, as well as the entrance of the heart, becomes a powerful reflection of this truth. Every home carries an atmosphere, and that atmosphere begins at the doorway. It is the first point where energy shifts from the outside world into the private space of living. When this space is open, clear, and cared for, it creates a sense of ease that can be felt immediately upon entering. There is a natural feeling of welcome, as if life itself is being invited in without resistance. But when the entrance is neglected, when it becomes crowded with forgotten objects, emotional heaviness, or lack of attention, the energy of the entire home begins to feel different. It is not always obvious, but it is always present. This same principle applies inwardly. The human heart also has an entrance, though it cannot be seen. It is formed by awareness, perception, and emotional openness. When this inner entrance is clear, life experiences flow through without unnecessary resistance. Joy can be felt more deeply, challenges can be processed more gently, and change can be accepted with greater ease. But when the inner entrance becomes burdened with unresolved emotions, repeated patterns of thought, or attachment to old experiences, life begins to feel heavier than it needs to be. Over time, both physical and inner spaces can accumulate what is no longer needed. In homes, this appears as clutter that slowly builds up without notice. Objects that once had meaning remain long after their purpose has faded. Spaces that once felt open begin to feel tight. Similarly, within the heart, experiences that were never fully processed can linger in subtle ways. Old disappointments, unspoken emotions, and repeated memories can quietly shape how new moments are received. Without awareness, this accumulation becomes a kind of invisible blockage. Clearing the entrance, therefore, is not about perfection or constant maintenance. It is about awareness and release. On the physical level, it may involve creating space where there was congestion, allowing light and air to move freely, and removing what no longer contributes to the present. These actions may appear simple, but they carry a deeper effect. They signal a shift from holding to allowing, from accumulation to openness. On the inner level, clearing the entrance requires a similar willingness. It involves noticing what thoughts and emotions are being carried unnecessarily and gently letting them move on. This does not mean ignoring the past or denying experiences. It means recognizing when something has completed its role and no longer needs to be held in the same way. When this recognition happens, there is often a subtle sense of relief, as if space has quietly returned. As both entrances begin to clear, something noticeable begins to shift in daily life. There is a greater sense of flow in ordinary moments. Decisions feel less weighed down by hesitation. Interactions feel less strained. Even silence begins to feel more comfortable. Life does not necessarily become easier in external terms, but it becomes less obstructed internally. The experience of living begins to feel more spacious. Prosperity in this understanding is not only about accumulation or success. It is about alignment with flow. It is about creating conditions where life can move without unnecessary resistance. When the entrance is clear, what is meant to arrive does not struggle to enter. It finds space naturally, and what is no longer needed does not remain longer than necessary. It gently moves away. In this way, the entrance becomes more than a physical threshold or an emotional concept. It becomes a living expression of how open one is to life itself. And when that openness is cultivated with awareness, even in the smallest ways, life begins to respond with a quiet sense of balance, ease, and natural unfolding. Inner peace is the real wealth. Lasting prosperity is not only financial, it includes clarity, calmness, gratitude, and emotional freedom. Prosperity is often imagined as something distant, a reward waiting at the end of struggle, effort, or time. People tend to believe it must be chased, earned through exhaustion, or unlocked through external success. Yet life repeatedly shows a quieter truth that is often overlooked. Prosperity is not only what arrives from outside, it is also what is allowed to enter. It depends greatly on the condition of the inner and outer entrance through which life passes. The doorway of a home and the doorway of the heart both play a role in shaping how abundance is experienced. The entrance of a home is the first point where the world meets private life. It is where energy transitions from the outside environment into personal space. When this area is open, clean, and gently maintained, it creates a feeling of welcome that is immediately noticeable. There is a sense of ease in stepping inside, as if the space is ready to receive whatever is meant to come. Light feels brighter, air feels fresher, and even silence feels peaceful. Without any conscious effort, the atmosphere supports a feeling of clarity and balance. However, when the entrance is neglected over time, its condition begins to influence the overall feeling of the home. This does not always happen in obvious ways. It is rarely about appearance alone. Instead, it is about the subtle energy that builds when attention is absent. Objects that are no longer needed may remain at the threshold. Dust may collect in corners that are rarely noticed. The space may begin to feel less like a passage and more like a storage point for what has been left behind. This accumulation creates a kind of heaviness that slowly affects how the home is experienced. In a deeper sense, the entrance of the home reflects the state of attention in life. When awareness is scattered or overwhelmed, spaces often begin to mirror that condition. When awareness is present and steady, even small areas feel cared for. The entrance becomes a simple but powerful indicator of how much room has been created for life to move freely. It is not about perfection or appearance, it is about the quality of presence that exists there. The same principle applies to the inner world. The heart also has an entrance, though it is not physical. It is formed through perception, emotion, and awareness. This inner entrance determines how experiences are received and processed. When it is open and clear, life flows through more easily. Experiences are felt fully but do not become burdens that are carried indefinitely. There is space for new moments to arrive without being weighed down by what came before. When the inner entrance becomes crowded with unresolved emotions, repeated thoughts, or unexamined memories, the experience of life begins to shift. New situations may still occur, but they pass through a filter of accumulated weight. Joy may feel less stable and peace may feel temporary. This does not mean life has changed in its essence, but rather that the space receiving it has become limited in its openness. Clearing both entrances, outer and inner, is not a dramatic act. It is a gradual process of returning to simplicity. On the physical level, it may involve allowing space where there was congestion, removing what no longer serves a purpose and letting light and air move more freely. These actions naturally change the feeling of a space without requiring force or complexity. They restore movement where there was stillness. On the inner level, clearing involves a similar gentleness. It means recognizing what emotions or thoughts have completed their role and allowing them to pass without resistance. It is not about rejecting the past, but about no longer holding it in a way that restricts the present. As this release happens, there is often a subtle shift in how life feels. The mind becomes less crowded and the heart feels lighter. As both entrances become clearer, life begins to move with greater ease. There may not be sudden dramatic changes, but there is a noticeable reduction in internal resistance. Decisions feel more natural, moments feel less burdened, and experiences feel more present. The sense of struggle gradually gives way to a quiet form of balance that is not dependent on external conditions. In this way, prosperity reveals itself not only through what is gained, but through what is no longer blocking the flow of life. When the entrances are open, life does not need to be forced. It enters naturally, settles gently, and moves in harmony with the space it finds.